From the high plains of the Midwest, I bid you good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whatever your time zone might be. My nod to the late and great Art Bell. I'm Keith Sharp.
And I'm G. Drussel.
And we welcome you to Life After Life, a paranormal webcast where we talk about the paranormal, UFOs, or the unexplained. And the biggest question of them all, what happens when we die? Stay tuned. Hey, good evening, everybody. So, Garrett, we got another awesome show. We have
so excited about this one.
Yeah, we have Dr. Logan Corelli, and he's been investigating the paranormal for 21 years. The motivation stemmed from his first experience at 8 years old. Since then, he's been on national TV, The Haunted, and started authoring books based on his experiences. He's currently filming a new paranormal TV show titled Paranormal America, which will showcase, the most haunted spots in the U.S. Dr. Corelli led many paranormal teams and is currently the director and lead investigator of Woodlands Paranormal OKC. He holds a Ph.D. in parapsychology as well as a doctorate in metaphysics. He is currently pursuing a Ph.D. in clinical psychology as well. Hey, Dr. Corelli, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I am good. You and Barry Taft are the only ones I know that have a doctorate in parapsychology. So,
well, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so Dr. Corelli, you have a doctorate in parapsychology. Can you explain to the audience what parapsychology is?
Well, basically, parapsychology, I guess in a nutshell, is pretty much the study of paranormal science. Mm-hmm. It ranges, but a lot of people think parapsychology is just dealing with the paranormal, ghosts, and things like that, and actually it's not. The study of parapsychology deals more with the mind, psychic abilities, and things of that nature as far as the study goes. Now, the paranormal and ghosts and things like that do make up a portion of it, but most of the time you'll see a lot more, I don't want to say clinical study, but more of a study done on psychic abilities, poltergeist phenomena, things of that nature.
Right.
But all of it kind of ties into the paranormal as a whole. So,
but there's a science. There's a science to it, though, correct? I mean, so that you know this is actually paranormal and not, something scientific that's happening. Does that make sense?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's awesome. I mean, that's a big asset for any team to have you on there because you kind of have that science background plus the paranormal thing. So you kind of know, okay, guys, this isn't paranormal. This is, and I can explain this to you why this is not paranormal. Correct.
Correct.
Okay.
And with the evolution of, if you want to call it that, of the paranormal field, a lot of the equipment has evolved. A lot of the techniques have kind of evolved. So you constantly see a constant change, I guess, in the field where we're becoming more advanced, more technological. And I'm not saying we're getting closer to a more definitive answer, but the way that we do things and what we used to do it has changed dramatically, even over the past 10 years.
Right.
So,
it's amazing.
It's very interesting.
Like is it called the obvious? That one box where it has
obvious.
Yes, it's a dictionary where Garrett, I don't know if you know, it's a black box and basically spirits can manipulate this. It has a dictionary in it
and like highlight words, right? Or
right. Well, it can actually say the word.
Yeah.
Oh, it says
and everything.
The word.
Yeah. So, do you guys use that contraption?
Absolutely, and remind me later to tell you a story from my last investigation where I guess you could say we have an Ovilus 3. I believe there's 5 models out now. The 5th one was, I guess, the last one. So we kind of have the one in between. It's not real old. It's not brand new, but it is a great device. We don't always put a lot of faith into it because, as with anything else, you can always have false positives and things of that nature.
Sure.
But we do have one. It does work, and the word dictionary that's built in at times has come up with a few interesting results. Now, I completely believe in coincidence. I completely believe that, things can just come up randomly.
Sure.
But this last time, and even a couple of times I can talk about later, it was just a little too much more to me than just coincidence.
Right.
So yes, we do utilize the Novulus, ghost box, all of that stuff, thermal equipment. I mean, the list goes on.
Wow. So your very first encounter, and by the way, I read your book. That book is awesome. In fact, I couldn't put it down, and actually I read it in one night. I stayed up till like 4 a.m. because it was like, this is really good. And
wow.
And creepy. So, okay, now
it was.
Yeah. You and Kathy Nance, I mean, you guys have a long history. I mean, she's in all throughout that book, correct? When you're referring to Kathy, I guess you're referring to Kathy Nance, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
That's her. I've known her for over a decade.
Wow.
And
she's so great.
We really connect with the paranormal.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
Yeah, she's awesome. She's so awesome. Now, your first encounter, Dr. Corelli, it happened at Fountainhead Lodge in Oklahoma, correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay. So let me ask you this, because when I was reading that, I was wondering, did the Fountainhead Lodge, did it have any type of history before that of being a haunted hotel?
Well, to my knowledge, of course, when I was there, I was 8, and, I knew absolutely nothing about paranormal.
Right.
Of course, they don't really put out brochures in the lobby that say, hey, we have hauntings, read this. None of us really that was there knew anything about ghosts or hauntings. And we were actually coming back from a summer trip where we had actually spent at Lake Tenkiller. I don't know if you know where that is.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, sure do.
But we were on our way back, and my mother and her friend decided that they had heard a lot about it, word of mouth from friends or whoever. So they said, well, we'll just stay there a night and check it out. Now, the one thing I want to say, talking about the book, and I just kind of wanted to put this out there, was originally when I had wrote the book, and it was submitted to the publisher, okay, they condensed it down about 30%.
Really?
So there were chapters in there that I wrote that did not make the final book, and a lot of the chapters that were in there were substantially shortened to reach their, I don't know, their page limit or whatever.
Well, Dr. Corelli, you've got to come out with a version 2, or you know what I mean?
You're right.
Well, everyone keeps wanting me to read like the uncut version, just so they could kind of read what they missed. And my original concept for writing the first book, okay, was going to be a volume 1 of a series, and it was originally titled The Paranormal Diary.
Mm-hmm.
It was titled that because it was supposed to be kind of like a diary in a sense, but just showcasing paranormal investigations, experiences, yada, yada, yada. One of the biggest chapters that was written out, that was omitted, I guess, from the book was my house. And I had so much stuff happen at my house, I decided to write a chapter about it.
Right.
And it was going to be put at the very end of the book. Well, the editors kind of said, well, this kind of doesn't, your house really isn't a famous place, so we don't want to put it in the book because, of course, they wanted to promote tourism and they wanted to promote, the places and hotels and the fancy, famous, haunted places. So I didn't want to argue. I said, okay, maybe I'll put it in another book. Maybe I'll talk about it somewhere else, whatever. So going back to the Fountainhead, yes, we decided to stay there for one night, and we kind of had a normal day. There was nothing really odd about the hotel, nothing creepy, nothing really, that would indicate there could be some issues later on in the night. Now, after the story had come out, and by the way, that story had been published in multiple Oklahoma newspapers.
Oh, wow.
It was in the Gazette. It was in the Tinker Takeoff. It was in a whole bunch of other smaller newspapers that we had an investigation on the OCU campus and UCO. I apologize, UCO. They, their local paper did a story. So that story had kind of circulated well before it was ever published in the book. Well, I got feedback from several people that read that and said, when I had stayed there, probably long before I did, I had heard noises and I had had strange experiences there. So that kind of led me to believe that, maybe the place had been actively haunted for a while.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Another thing about that, too, was I had submitted that story through one of the classes that I took at one of the universities.
Mm-hmm.
And after it had got, of course, it was graded and, passed and all of that. I got some feedback from the professor that felt like maybe the whole situation that happened that night was some sort of psychokinetic energy that actually resonated within myself, that where I kind of contributed to some of the things that had happened.
Right.
Of course, I'm thinking, 8 years old, I never had anything like that happen before. But there were several things that happened after that in my life before I got involved in the paranormal, which was a little strange and, could be coincidental. For example, when I was 11, I actually got hit by lightning.
Wow.
Of course, you might have read that in the book.
Mm-hmm.
I had a few experiences at a friend's house when I was about 12, and something had grabbed me through the blanket and yanked me off the bed, and just random things like that. And then, you go through adolescence and teenage with really no paranormal experiences. And then, I get out of school and, I'd always kind of carried that memory, the Fountainhead memory with me. And as I'd gotten older, the fear kind of turned into curiosity, I guess. And
right.
I wanted to find what was really causing it. Was it some sort of like mass hallucination? Was it something evil? Was it something, that was ghost related? It could have so many things that really kind of said, well, I'm going to start looking into this from a scientific point of view versus everyone else saying, oh, it was Native American burial site and it was demons and it was this.
That's always the excuse, isn't it?
And everyone's entitled to believe what they believe. However, I wanted to find a more solid and concrete reasoning for, what had happened. So
right.
The last time I actually went to the site was before it was demolished. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to go into the building. But I had such a vivid memory of being in that building and the hallways and how they looked and the carpet and the smell. And it was just so vivid. And you read the book.
Yes.
So I'm sure you remember the shadow on the wall that chased me down the hall.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Dr. Corelli. I was just going to let Garrett know that, his mother sent him down to get some ice, okay? And so this huge shadow figure appeared adjacent to the machine. Is that correct, Dr. Corelli? And as he's going back, this thing's following him, and then it starts at a mad dash, starts chasing him.
And you were running, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
He was only. At 8 years old, that had to have been just
terrifying.
Traumatic.
It was. I can assure you, it really was. And reading the book, I'm sure you led up to the point when I got to the door and I'm banging on the door and I threw the ice on the ground.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the shadow gain on me to where, it's almost right up on me. So, you really don't understand about possibilities of things. I didn't know if this shadow was going to jump off the wall and grab me,
right,
possess me, or whatever was going to happen. But fortunately for me, before my mother had actually opened the door, once it got level with me and the door, I literally watched it dissipate into like a smoke. And
oh
it was
my
gone.
God, that's terrible.
And
terrifying.
I'm literally like, I'm shaking from this, and my mother, and she opened up the door and she saw me, like she saw the look and she saw the ice and the bucket and everything. And she thinks like there's a guy trying to kidnap me.
Right.
She's looking around, what's going on with, and I'm trying to tell her, we get in the room and, lock the door and all of that. And I'm explaining to her, what I saw. And, I guess her kind of apprehension kind of died down, and she's like, "Oh, he was chasing his own shadow and blah blah blah." So it kind of went from fear to, "Oh, he's just a young dumb kid who didn't know, what was going on or whatever." And she actually tried to get me to go back out and get more ice. So
yeah, he said no, Garrett.
Yeah, of course.
Well,
No.
wasn't there? There's a part too, wasn't it, where your mom had? I'll let you tell the story. I don't want to jump ahead of you. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. So we're going through the night, and all of a sudden, we start hearing these noises coming from. We were on the 4th floor, okay, and I guess the 5th floor was under some sort of renovation or modification, or something was going on up there. We were starting to hear like banging and sawing and drills, and I mean just construction type work going on upstairs.
Right.
And my mother had kind of made the comment, like, because at that point I'd say it was probably, getting dark. It wasn't like really late, but she was like, well, I wonder how long they're going to be doing that, because don't want to be trying to sleep and having all these noises and stuff. So she had actually placed a call to the front desk, and I don't know verbatim what she said. Basically, she just said, hey, I'm not trying to complain. I'm not trying to cause a problem. Right. However, I was just wondering how long the workers are going to be working on the floor above us. Is that going to go on in the night or whatever? And the front desk had actually said to her something to the effect of, well, the construction people leave at 5 o'clock, so there shouldn't be any work going on up there. And she said, well, we're hearing these noises, and you might go talk to them and find out maybe, working late or whatever. So anyway, long story short, we keep hearing the noises. My mother actually calls back and talks to someone again. I don't know if it's the same person or somebody else. And basically they say, look, we sent our security people up there. It's dark up there. Nobody's up there. Nothing's going on. And
oh God,
bye. And that kind of like, I guess, kind of confused her in a sense, where she was kind of like, well, that's weird because we're hearing these noises. They got to be coming somewhere. And it was so obvious. It wasn't like we were hearing somebody's television. Okay. Right. It wasn't like we were hearing, No,
you heard the vibrations of this equipment, right? Like the
I mean, you could specifically hear a saw, something, buzzing. You could hear like banging. It was I don't know if it was from a hammer or from something else, but you could definitely hear banging up there. And it wasn't constant. Okay, it wasn't just like bang 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 and all this stuff going on all the time. It was intermittent. It would come and go. But still, it was kind of enough to where we were really kind of confused about it. So anyway, the night goes on a little bit, and all of a sudden, we hear these 3 knocks at the door. Like knock, knock, knock. And my mother gets up. Of course, she thinks it could be someone from the front desk or somebody about the noises or whatever.
Sure.
And my mother was always a very cautious person. She always had the chain on the door and the lock's dead bolted and all of that. So she's looking out the door and she doesn't see anybody. So she was kind of like, well, maybe they had the wrong room, whatever. So she goes back and sits down, and I'd say like maybe 15 minutes later or so, and it's like knock, knock, knock. 3 knocks, almost the same sequence. And she gets up again and she looks. She doesn't see anybody. And this time, Lauren looks out there and doesn't see anybody, whatever. Well, this happened several times, okay? And, I immediately, it was like my stomach got really upset kind of and really just nauseous because I knew something was going on. Now, I didn't know if it was the shadow man trying to get in and get me. I didn't know if it was something else worse. I didn't know, I really didn't have in my mind the concept of paranormal. So, it wasn't like, well, maybe it's a ghost. Maybe it's, it was just something that I knew wasn't right. And so my mother came to the conclusion that it must be a kid. Of course, everything was my fault. I had met some kid, and he was playing a prank and, trying to scare her or whatever. So anyway, she's like, well, because I would say the time frame went down to about every 5 minutes or so or less that it was doing this. So she's like, I'm going to wait behind the door, and when they do it again, I'm going to scare them or whatever.
Right.
And I'm just thinking, something's going to happen, you know. And I had actually remembered going to the far back corner of the room and just like standing there because I didn't know what was going to happen with this situation.
Mm-hmm.
So sure enough, like clockwork, the knocks come at the door, and, you know, she throws the chain off and opens up the door and kind of lunges out into the hall and she's standing there and she's looking around and there's nothing there.
Jeez.
And so she's kind of standing there in the hallway for a brief minute, you know, and looking around, and because there's no way that anyone that could have done that could have ran into another room or ran down the hall fast enough where there would be some sign of somebody somewhere. You'd either hear a door close, you would see them running away, something would have been evident, okay,
yes.
that there was somebody out in the hall. So she backs up into the room, and she's got her hand on the door, holding the door open. And, you know, just before, I believe it was just before she could really say anything about it, with the door in her hand, bam, 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 right on the door.
Oh, my God.
As she's holding it. So she jumps back.
What?
And slams the door, and, you know, she starts locking, and she grabs we had these really vintage old suitcases back then,
mm-hmm.
and she takes all of our luggage and piles it in front of the door. And, you know, I'm just sitting there thinking, now we're trapped in here. It's probably inside with us. You know, I was being very pessimistic because, you know, I was like, oh, my God, we're doomed or whatever. So, and my mother had a friend that was traveling with us, and she was speechless. She did not say a word of anything during all this stuff that was going on, except maybe the time they were making fun of me. She was probably laughing.
Right.
So, anyway, the door's barricaded, and you know, we're all back. This time she's actually afraid, you know.
Yeah.
She's thinking, oh, my, there's demons and da-da-da-da. She didn't say that. She didn't
right.
say that. But all of a sudden, as we're cowering in the room, they had these little bitty, I'd say probably maybe 11, 13-inch televisions. They were on this metal stand, okay?
Uh-huh.
And they didn't have the remotes back then. They had the turn knobs where you turned them on, then you had to turn the knob to change the channel, and, you know, that type of thing. Well, that TV kicked on automatically, okay? And the screen was a bright red.
What?
I mean, it was just like a bright red glow. And you could hear a man, it was definitely a man, laughing from the TV.
Hey, you thought it was funny.
It wasn't like a demonic, evil laugh or something hideous or anything like that. It was like there was a man, you know, on TV that was just laughing. There was no music. There was no other voices. There was no sound. It was just the sound of him. And she goes, oh, my God, it's laughing. And she goes up and goes like, and I'm going to unplug the television, and goes up to get it and pulls it up. And the damn thing wasn't plugged in.
Oh, my God.
Okay, that's...
What?
And
I'm out of there at that point.
Yeah.
As soon as she pulled that cord up, it immediately went off. And when I say it went off, it didn't fade out. It didn't just, you know, slowly, you know, go away. It instantly went away. The man's voice, the redness, all of it gone.
God.
So now we're like really freaked out. And we're in the room, and all of a sudden, I'd say maybe 10 or 15 minutes past. Time in that situation was so unorganized.
Mm-hmm.
We could have been there for 30 minutes. I couldn't tell you. But I would say probably 15 minutes, so whatever. We're in the room, still barricaded with this luggage, and we start hearing this distant like wind, you know, like I don't want to say like a howling wind, but it was a very strong blowing wind.
Right.
Okay. And it gradually just increased and increased, and it got louder and louder. Well, being in Oklahoma, when you hear strong winds, you think, oh my God, this is a tornado, or, you know, there's a storm coming or something. but it's loud. It got so loud with the wind that literally I remember the windows rattling, like vibrating from the wind, but not one tree outside was moving. No air
my
flow
God.
was in the room. It was just the sound of the wind, okay? And now you've got the windows shaking. And no trees, nothing blowing inside or out, but you have this audible manifestation of the strong wind and the windows shaking, okay? That went on for a few minutes. It totally died down, got quiet again. And that scared me the most because it seemed like when it got quiet, it was changing course. It was getting stronger. So I'm like, something new is going to happen. Now we got something else. So we're sitting there, and all of a sudden, there was a patch on the glass, okay, on the window that fogged up. And I'd say it was probably maybe 12 inches. Maybe not. I'd say within 12 inches squared, okay, just as an example. It may not have been that big. And it was like something was breathing on it, okay? And then you could see what looked like little, like, fingerprints coming on the glass.
Oh,
but
God.
the glass, it was on the other side of the glass. It was coming from the outside. But there was nothing out there. It was absolutely nothing out there. So then the last straw, if you want to call it that, was all of the fingerprints and stuff like that, and it all went to the fog, and suddenly it appeared out and it said, "You're dead." And
Okay, I've been out of there.
Did you guys get out of there?
Yeah. We grabbed everything that we had and we took off and we left.
Oh, God.
And we didn't move back. And the lady, I remember at the front desk, was like, "Oh, you're checking out early?" And my mother made some comment to her. And I remember we got in the car and we drove all the way home, and nobody would talk about it. Nobody.
Did you guys talk about it after that?
Quiet.
Like when you got home and stuff?
Not right away. We had talked about it over the years, and I still think it gave, like, her friends some kind of, like, PTSD, okay? Because she always has this trouble. She always has this trouble, like, traveling and stuff. So
I could see that.
but-
I mean, that's terrifying.
But you know, Dr. Corelli, for your mom, that had to have been tough because she's the adult and she's the protector of you. But yet, there's this strong force in this room that she can't see, and she doesn't know how to deal with it.
Insurmountable force.
Yeah, and so that must have been hard for her as well.
Well, and it sounds like at first she was trying to explain it away. You know?
Well, we all would.
I would.
Everybody
yeah,
would. That's
100%.
Well, and even if you think it's something haunted, and especially you got kids, you know you want to explain it away so the
I've done
kids
it.
are.
Yeah,
But
kidding.
as what he was saying is things just get worse and got worse and
Right.
got worse.
Yeah, it's unexplainable.
So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
It definitely. I would say it made a lasting impression, and I can almost say that had that not happened, then we probably wouldn't be talking right now. Now it's possible that, you know, maybe my interest in things could have shifted, and I could have got back in this somehow. But I was just so motivated and driven from that because I think the biggest reason she didn't really talk about it is she didn't know what to say.
Sure.
And of course, even like now today,
Because
she'll
there's no way-
admit the place is fine.
Yeah, there's no way to explain it to
she'll
any.
Right.
Yeah, you can't explain it rationally.
No. And of course, you know, you can easily say, "Oh, it was something demonic and evil," but we weren't attacked. You know,
Right.
Right.
We weren't scratched. We weren't, you know, hurt or bruised or anything like that. It was almost like whatever it was just interested in getting a reaction out of us.
Right, it was
Which
entertained.
it got. Started
Yeah.
with me.
Yeah, and it was laughing about it.
And yeah, exactly. And I think it kind of targeted me first because I was probably the most vulnerable.
Right, right.
And, you know, probably, I don't want to say the most naive, but, I was just happened to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, you know, when that had happened. So that whole experience like I said, drove me to I don't want to say an obsession, but
A path.
really into investigating and debunking and going through all of these things. And I could tell you so many experiences I've had since then, that, we'd be talking all night and into the morning if I even started.
So when this happened to you at such a young age, I mean, because I've had things happen to me too, and I always get asked this question, so I'm going to ask you the same question. Did you find this more terrifying or more spiking your curiosity?
Well, at the time, it was definitely more terrifying. When I got out of the situation and I got into my safe zone and I kind of lived with it for a while and I started thinking back on it, that's kind of when I'd say the curiosity kind of overcame the fear.
Yeah.
I never really was, even after that happened, I wasn't someone who was always like, I wasn't afraid of the dark. I wasn't afraid to go into, an empty house or be alone or any of those other things. I didn't have those traditional fears that a lot of kids have, even growing up and even before that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that, when that had happened, I wanted answers, even
Right.
if it wasn't the answer that I wanted to hear, because when you get home, you don't think about things like, spirits coming with you and following you
Yes.
and all of those types of things. It was more of a relief where it's there, I'm here, life goes on, and yes, and it did,
So
That's unbelievable.
one thing I've always been curious about, Dr. Corelli, and maybe you can explain this to me. What is the difference between poltergeist activity and then paranormal activity?
Well, a lot of people, that's a good question. When I first started studying parapsychology, okay,
Mm-hmm.
Poltergeists were my number one area of study. It wasn't ghosts or psychics or mediums or all of these other things. It was poltergeist activity. And no, it wasn't because of the movie or anything like that.
Right.
It was because I felt like it was the most interesting aspect, that I wanted to really dig into deep. Okay.
Now explain to everybody first. I'm sorry. Just explain to everybody first. Poltergeist activity is like happenings from energy or something like that. Can you give a definition of that to the listeners?
Yes, RSPK, recurrent spontaneous psychokinesis.
Okay.
It's a psychokinetic energy resonating within the mind of an individual that's actually causing activity to happen within a certain area.
Right. So it's not necessarily a dead spirit haunting. It's just
no,
gotcha.
Absolutely not.
Right.
There is nothing spiritual or demonic or anything related to that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually did a really in-depth study. In fact, one of my articles I wrote was published on a couple of websites about poltergeist theory, and I pretty much what I wanted to do was do an in-depth study of a poltergeist agent or a person who's resonating these energies. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to study it in the sense of could it be harnessed? Could it be controlled? Could it be set out in any certain way, or is it something that's completely random? I wanted to find the method kind of behind the madness. And I don't know if you've heard of Dr. William G. Roll. He was a very famous European parapsychologist, and he was my mentor.
Mm-hmm.
I studied under him for a long time. I really, really, really enjoyed his works and theories and everything. And one of the things I had wanted to do, and the things I talked about in the article, was actually taking, like I said, a poltergeist agent and actually seeing if that energy could be focused in on a location, an object, or a person. And
Mm-hmm.
if those said object or person or place was moved voluntarily or involuntarily, with or without the knowledge of the agent, knowing would it have an effect on the activity. Now, unfortunately, I did not get a chance to conduct that little experiment, but it made enough sense and it got enough attention. Like I said, it was published in a few places, and they were really, they thought it was a really good paper. So anyway, I can say to you, a lot of the times, even in investigations that I've gone on, it had been suggested to me or asked if the activity in the location was somehow could be related to a poltergeist or poltergeist activity.
Right.
And it used to drive me crazy when people would take certain events from a haunting and say, "Oh, this is poltergeist activity." And I mean, it used to really just drive me crazy. And I'd say, "No, you can't say that because that's not really. I don't believe what it is because, for one, this could be an abandoned place, and nobody lives here, and no one in the team had that ability that I was aware of. So there's a lot of different factors and things that we've been through. But to answer your question, no, poltergeists are not spirits. They're not entities. It's simply psychokinetic energy, like I said, resonating from a person, close or far, that's causing certain things to happen. And poltergeists always go into cycles. I believe it's a 5-cycle process where, it starts out very subtle and then it gets into a really, really bad situation in the end. It dies down or stops and then it restarts all over again. But there's definitely a break within the cycle. So
yeah, don't they say that happens mainly with females who are going through puberty? Is that correct? Yeah. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
Why would that be? I wonder.
Well, some people theorize it's hormonal. It could have something to do with the chemistry in the body and the brain. And I don't necessarily. This is just my own opinion. Okay. I don't know if I necessarily believe that could actually trigger or generate some sort of psychokinetic energy.
Right.
I think it would have to do within a person individually, because if all prepubescent girls could do that, we'd have poltergeists everywhere.
Exactly. That's what I've always thought, because you would have that in every family.
I have 3 daughters. Oh my God!
Yeah. So there's got to be something, some type of energy the girl's putting off, right? Or that she has some type of ability that possibly she doesn't know about.
It could be, and there's also a lot of theories behind that too. That it isn't just related to puberty. Okay, it could be related to some sort of physical or sexual abuse that triggers it.
Gotcha.
It could be related to some sort of psychological condition or fear or I don't want to say psychosis, but maybe.
Right.
There's all these different factors, and it's not always girls. The age range typically between the poltergeist agent, and it's not definite, is 9 to 24. And most of the cases, is female, but not always.
Mm-hmm.
And the activity always changes. It's not always, dishes flying around your house and, blood from the walls and or rain going from the ground to the ceiling. And I mean, all of the things that's been documented in a poltergeist type environment, it's different for everyone. And sometimes an agent may have it happen one time and it goes away. It may be something to where it goes on steadily over the years. Maybe, something changes and it breaks off. That's why we wanted to do the study. We wanted to use the factors, in the case and kind of use it in a, I don't want to say a lab setting, but something, a controlled environment where we could actually change different things to see if we could gauge a reaction. Now, I know from other cases that, when these girls or agents or whoever was demonstrating these abilities, they had found unique or different brain patterns, that they were monitoring. There was a lot of things where there was, of course, elevations of blood pressure and other things that they had checked out. But those things, a lot of those things happen all the time.
Right.
It doesn't give people paranormal abilities. So that one of my other things I was wanting to study was what happens when you take a cluster of RFPK energy in a person and put them into an actively haunted environment.
Oh wow.
And and kind of shut the door. What kind of effect does it have off of it? Because a lot of the hauntings and a lot of the ghosts and a lot of the things that's being reported and the haunted places, and I'm sure you both know this as well, contain large elements of energy.
Right.
You know, whether it be electromagnetic energy or static energy, or, you know, that's basically, in a nutshell, kind of what happens. Spirits use energy, okay, to manifest, to you know, create visualizations, apparitions, all of that stuff. And we've monitored it, we've seen it. Do we know what it is? No, but we know it's present. So what kind of an effect would it have to take someone with that ability, put them in that environment, and kind of just, you know, let the genie out of the bottle? So
put all the energy in one spot.
Right. Would it have some cataclysmic effect, and, you know, everything's just going crazy, and you have, like, I mean, the best parts of, like, Ghostbusters going on, you know, with, you know, all of these things running around and throwing things.
Or would you see it, would you see it for what it is? Like if you were inside that room, you know, at the hotel that you experienced when you were 8, if you put somebody that had the poltergeist energy, or what was the acronym you used? RP?
Agent.
Okay.
RSPK.
Right. Yeah. So would you in that moment be able to see what was actually, who was interacting with the TV or the handprints, right? If you put all that energy in the same place. Man, that's fascinating.
And another thing to think of too is, would that person with that ability have more susceptibility to communicating with whatever's there?
Right.
You know, like, I don't want to say like a medium, okay, but maybe they have some way to relate to them that maybe they could see, or maybe that person would be more susceptible to the activity. But then again, how do you distinguish between spiritual energy and RSPK? How would you know if it was coming from the ghost or if it was coming from the girl?
Yeah.
You know, there's all these different factors that you would have to monitor, okay? Because I guarantee you, anything that's happened in a haunting, from manifestations to smells to noises to doors slamming, every bit of that has been documented in a poltergeist case at one point or another.
So there's a common link.
Okay.
There
is.
And you feel like it's energy.
Not to say that, yeah, I do.
That's awesome.
Maybe different kinds of energy.
Right. But energy nonetheless.
Right.
Man, that's awesome.
And one of the other questions was, is it possible that the person that has the ability to utilize the psychokinetic energy, is there some way that they could potentially control it or harness it, you know, to willingly make things happen, or willingly cause, you know, these sort of events and different things? Because you have to keep in mind, especially with a small child, when these things are going on, the child is not thinking, oh my God, I'm making all of these things happen. You know, it's mostly fear. You know, there's a monster in the house, there's a ghost in the house, demon in the house, you know, because a lot of the parents and a lot of the supervising adults are probably leading into that, okay, possibly. So that in itself is stress. Fear and stress can actually, I believe, cause, you know, activity within someone with the ability. Like I said, there's mental illness and abuse and other things. So is that fear that is being, you know, passed around the house actually causing some of these events to take place? Are they kind of
fueling,
you know, creating their own haunting, so to speak?
Right.
That's fascinating. I've never thought of it like that.
Like, how common is this? Do we
know?
Not
very. You know, I mean, I talk about it a lot, and, you know, a lot of it is like a lot of illnesses, okay? It's misdiagnosed. And it's misdiagnosed because there's a lot of people that watch TV and watch movies and read things, and they go, "Oh my God, this is a poltergeist." Oh my God, I actually had somebody tell me one time that all ghosts are poltergeists.
Oh.
And I try not to lunge out at anybody or anything. And I say, well, you believe what you believe, and that's kind of what I tell people when I get criticism from everybody. But
right.
Okay, but that's fine. You're wrong, but okay.
That all seems perfectly logical to me.
Well, and like I said, a poltergeist is not something you can walk into a house and look around and even with all the stories and everything that people are telling you and say, okay, looks like we have a poltergeist here. This is what it is, and da 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 da. Because number one, most importantly, you have to validate what you're being told. Okay, because a lot of people tell you things that aren't true. A lot of people tell you things that they perceive to be true that aren't true, and a lot of people say things they don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
So that's part of the investigation process. That's number one.
It's important.
Is this actually happening? Is there a pattern? Okay, because like I said, you have a cycle that it goes and comes and goes, and it's really not something that's very easy for people to. It's easy to witness, but it's not easy for them to diagnose, or to say, this is 100%, a poltergeist, and it takes a long time and it takes a lot of study. So, like I had said before, I had talked with several people, some of them at like mental institutions and things, and I just kind of asked around. I was like, I know you can't tell me like confidentiality and everything, but this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to see, if maybe I could get referred somewhere. I'm looking for the type. And of course, they look at you like they're crazy. It's like, no, this place isn't haunted. We don't have any ghosts here. I'm like, no. That's not what I'm trying to do. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just saying, and you can reach out to many people, the church or whoever, and everybody has a different take on it. Okay.
Right.
Church is more spiritual. It's, it's demonic. It's this, it's that, mental health institutions. Oh, it's, it's schizophrenia and psychosis and blah, 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 blah. So, you kind of have to look for the diamond in the rough. Okay. The needle in the haystack.
Right.
And really, because there are those factors out there of like, mental illness and all the psychological things and the people just straight up lying, because a lot of them do.
Yep.
You kind of, it takes a lot of time really to find those genuine cases. And when I was doing lectures, I used to do like public lectures. Kathy's done it with me a few times. We used to have like go to these conventions and do lectures and stuff. I had as a part of my my presentation, and anyone that's ever done a lecture presentation, you've got slides, you've got pictures, you've got audio, you got all the stuff you kind of cycle through while you're talking to show the audience. I kind of came up with this like trifecta. Okay, it was like this little pyramid. And it wasn't like an actual pyramid, because typically a pyramid's in layers and it goes from bottom to top. This was a 3-point system, okay? And I used to tell people, every paranormal occurrence that happens by everyone that witnesses it, anywhere, everywhere, it's one of 3 things, okay? At the top, you've got psychological. That's about 70% of the cases.
Okay.
At the bottom, bottom corner, you've got parapsychological. That makes up about 20%. And then you've got the other, which I called other, which is going to be your spiritual, your ghost, your demonic, your whatever, the entities and all of those other things, which is about 10%. And I felt that was fairly accurate, because a lot of the time, just in investigating like thousands of places and all these different houses and different things, you kind of come up with that conclusion. But how do you really identify the top part is easy. The psychological is very easy. But the other 2 are a little harder because they take more time, they take more education, they take more experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't want to do that, or they can't do that. Because a lot of people that I don't want to say a lot of people, but some of the people, okay, that have gotten into this field of study have gotten out of it for one reason or another. Either they got bored, or something they saw scared them and they didn't want to go on anymore. And, some of them just got tired of going out. I mean, that's just the truth. Only the people that are truly interested in investigating, okay, really stay with this for a long period of time. And I can't tell you one time in 21 years that I actually stopped and said, maybe I should quit. I never had that. I never really had that desire, to
How
stop.
many times, though, when you go into an investigation, I mean, there is a whole lot of nothing's happening at all, right?
Of course.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is that a majority of your cases, you would say?
I would say, depending on, like I said, there's a lot of factors, okay? Abandoned places, residentials, we investigated your house.
Right.
You've got the historical places. You've got just all sorts of, in a nutshell, okay? I'm going to say probably 60-40 overall.
Right.
60% where it was quiet, didn't really get a lot. And there's the 40%, I'd say, where we got something. And then there's maybe the 10% where it was very memorable. And when I say memorable, I'm sure you read a lot of it in the book, and there's a lot more that's not in that book.
Well, yeah, not even that, but I mean, like the Osborne case you guys studied in Edmond, that was unbelievable.
Right.
Where I mean, actually, the weather was affected. Carl Johnson was on the case, and that was scary, man. Just watching that was scary. I mean, is that something? Can you talk about that case a little bit, or?
Well, not a lot. I was there filming and stuff, and I'm sure you saw the show.
Yeah.
We were on the bed, and the bed was moving.
Right.
We were seeing different things, and it was a really active place. However, I wouldn't put it in my top. I wouldn't even put it in my top 10 for residentials.
Really?
Just to give you an idea,
please.
On
yeah.
Just to give you an idea, I've had a lot more active houses than that.
Let's hear it.
Wow.
I mean,
give us one.
Like I said, we could be here until the early morning
give us
hours.
one.
Okay, come on, Dr. Corelli. Give us a good one.
Okay, hang on.
Okay,
hang on.
No problem.
So I'm going to pull. Well, I'm going to pull one of the stories from my book. Do you remember the house? Do you remember the house, that one of the Shawnee houses?
Yeah, and that's when Kathy was with you on that one.
Yeah, Kathy mentioned that.
Yeah.
Not this one. This was a different one.
Okay.
This was the
Even
one
better.
where I got the possessed toy.
Okay.
Did you read about that?
I did. But refresh my memory, because like I said, I read that book in one day.
Okay. Well, I'll probably tell you more than was in the book anyway. So
Even better.
We got referred to this residential investigation. This was all the way back in 2004. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we had gone in, and it was like an apartment type building type residence. And we had met with the homeowner, and the homeowner was telling me about all these things that was happening. They were hearing things. She actually had a footprint that was in the bathroom that was actually left on the rug with some sort of like residue on it or something. I mean, she kept the rug. So I'm thinking, well, that could have been this or that. I mean, I really wasn't impressed with that a lot, but I'm like, okay, I'll look into it.
Right.
And they were, hearing things and whatever. But the number one reason why she had called somebody was she had a son who was, I don't know, probably 6 years old or so. And he had this monster truck, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And this monster truck would activate on its own. The kid would be sleeping or the kid would be sitting there. The thing would start going off. And it was one of those trucks with the, had the sound into it. And it was like, grave digger, and it would start going across the floor.
Right.
The kid would be like, So I thought that was rather interesting because, again, we're talking about a potential energy, okay, that could be going on. Now, she had a young daughter, but I wasn't going, ooh, maybe it's a poltergeist. I wasn't even going down that road. She was within the age range too, but it was kind of around this kid in this truck. So, long story short, we end up investigating the house, and we ended up kind of focusing our attention on this truck. Well, I was laying there, and I'd actually fell asleep for a while, and I woke up, and I asked my colleague, I go, oh, it's like 4 a.m. I was like, did the truck go off? And he goes, well, it didn't move. It just kind of made this sound. Okay. And I'm like, what kind of sound? And well, it kind of made this like whistling sound or something. It was really odd. And I asked her, I was like, does the truck do that? She goes, no, I've never heard it do that before. And so I'm thinking, oh, well, this is wonderful. So, now we've got the sound and this truck. And so anyway, we ended up leaving that night. And I think it was maybe a few days later, we were at a residence, which was another town away, okay? And we were sitting in a dark living room, and we were kind of talking. The homeowner was there, and we were just going to have, and all of a sudden it got quiet for a split second, and you heard this sound, this whee sound.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, what was that? And he goes, that's the sound of that truck.
Oh, no.
And my colleague, he goes, if we turn on the light and that truck's sitting in the middle of this room, I am leaving. And so I'm like, oh, yay, maybe the truck's here. And we turned on the light, and of course it's not there. And, I was like, well, what was that noise? And he goes, that's the noise we heard from, the house. And another long story short, that noise followed me for 6 months. Everywhere.
Oh my God.
And anywhere that noise would manifest, things would happen. Now, we're getting into the conversation again. Is this some kind of self-induced RSPK energy that maybe I'm sending out that's causing this audible manifestation? But there's more to it than that. And I'm not trying to promote, I have psychic abilities or any sort of thing like that. It was just something that I felt was circumstantial and coincidental, maybe. Okay. But here's the thing. We had, and I'm going to go back to the house. So don't worry about that. I just want to go on the noise for a little while.
Okay.
So just to give you an idea on some of the stuff that had happened. So I ended up, after about a month or so of hearing this noise, I ended up calling it Wessler. I don't know if you've ever seen Blade, his guy that made weapons or whatever. Okay. So I called him Wessler. So one night we had left an investigation, and my colleague and I were back in Midwest City, and we ended up going to the Taco Bell, or not Taco Bell, Bueno. It was Taco Bueno. And it was real late at night. We were the only customers like in the dining room area. And we were up there making our order, and the guy at the counter saw our shirt, and it said Paranormal Investigation. Blah, blah, blah. It was our group shirts, and he goes, "Wow, what is that? What's that mean?" And so my colleague starts talking to him about ghosts and all this stuff, and I'm just really kind of wanting my food, and all of a sudden that noise came out, and he goes, "Oh, did you hear that?" And he goes, "Yeah, what was that?" And my colleague's like, "That was a ghost." And he goes, "Oh, come on, man." He goes, "No, I'm serious. It follows him everywhere." And I'm like, And he's like, "Really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it kind of does." And yeah, so I'd already placed the order and everything. So I decided to get away from the situation. I went and sat down at the table, and I was hoping he would shut up and come back so we could get our food. Well, and kid you not, like under the table, I had felt like something had wrapped around my ankles. Okay. And it was very cold. It got very cold. And I told my colleague, I said, "Hey, shut up for a minute. Come here." And, he goes, "What's wrong?" And I go, "It's very cold and something is under this table." And I'm not even kidding. And it was summer. Okay. It was summertime. It wasn't like dead of winter, we're
no
20
vent,
degrees outside.
no vent under the table.
It was hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Under the table. And I told him, I said, "Put your hand under the table here. And so he did. He goes, oh my God, it is freezing cold. Well, the guy comes with our food, and he goes, hey, put your hand under here. And he goes, you got to feel this. It's so cold. And he goes, no. He puts the tray down, and he runs to the back of the room or back of the restaurant, back, whatever. And I'm sitting there, and I'm not kidding you. That table got so cold that the center of the table started to create moisture.
Oh, wow.
Right in the center of it. And we were just blown away. And then all of a sudden, it just was gone. Temperature went back to normal. Everything was normal again. And we were sitting there eating. We were talking about it. And, I told my colleague, I said, I really want to know what this is. I had a psychic once tell me, oh, it's a small male child. And, he's kind of, looking up to you and like a big brother or whatever. He wants you to take care of him. Blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Okay, well, that's what you see. Okay, I didn't go into that, but it was enough that really kind of piqued my interest. And so those people, I think there was only 2 employees that night. They never came back out to the front counter until after we left. The people were coming through the drive-through window looking at us like, where's everybody at? And we're like, I don't know. But I told my colleague, I said, they probably locked themselves in the freezer. You scared them so bad, And so a little bit later, the noise is still going on. And I would have things that would happen to me that I really couldn't explain. I didn't really attribute it to the noise, but it was things that had happened that I couldn't dismiss off as nothing. Okay, so I used to work in Oklahoma City, and I worked in this building where you had to like badge in, and it was a revolving door, and you had to get on the elevator and go to the second floor. Well, I would always come in early in the morning, like around 6 o'clock, because I always wanted to work overtime.
Mm-hmm.
So I would go in the building, I would badge in, I'd go through the door. The elevator door would open on its own. And of course, naturally, I'm getting out of the way to let whoever off, but nobody's on it. I would go into the elevator, the door would close and take me right to the second floor without touching a button. Now, was that related to the noise? I don't know. The sound, noise, however you want to refer to it. However, I had a couple of other things happen with the noise. At work, we had a meeting one day, and we had this little conference room, okay? And
Mm-hmm.
there were these computers that were set in this circular table in a circle where you could, sit around the desk with that computer. And they had an instructor and yada, yada, yada. He would go on and, teach or whatever he was talking about. Well, one thing that I'll also attribute to this noise was it would always untie my shoes. Always. If I would hear the noise, I guarantee you 99 times out of 100, I could look down and my shoes would be untied. I don't know why, but it was just something that had happened. Well, I'm in this meeting with all these other people, and I had this woman that I worked with, and most of them knew what I did because I took a couple of them on investigations, and this one woman was just like, don't you bring that to work, and I don't want to see none of your ghosts, and da, 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 da. So we're all at the table, at the computer, and all of a sudden, the noise went off, and I kind of looked around. I didn't say anything. I didn't do anything, and the instructor kind of stopped for a minute. He looked around, and then he went back on talking about what he was doing, and the sound went off again. And I kind of looked down, and I saw my shoes, and I go, I didn't say anything.
Untied.
And I looked at my coworker. Her eyes were real big, and she looked at me like, "Don't you tell me something's in this room," And I didn't say anything. I just, kept going on. And a little bit after that, not my computer, but the computer to my immediate left, the screen went out. And then the one to their left would go out. And then the one to their left would go out. And they're thinking it's a screensaver. They're moving their mouse and clicking the space bar. And what's wrong with this damn computer? And I knew what it was. I didn't say anything. And I'd say it got probably about halfway around, and very subtle. I didn't make a scene. I just stuck my head under the table and I go, Wessler, stop it. And as soon as I did that, they all came back on.
Oh my goodness!
Wow.
One of them. So that was one of the phenomena that I had firsthand account of for, like I said, about 6 months, and then it went away. But there was other people that, I mean, anyone could hear it. Anybody.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
I mean, friends, coworkers, anybody that was in my presence, and no one ever heard it unless I was there.
So did that spirit follow you? I mean, was there any, like, once you left that house and then you started having these problems, did you ever get in touch with the homeowners going, hey, is your house quiet? Because it's with me now. You know?
Oh, no. We continuously investigated that location. And we did have things happen, not necessarily with the noise. We did see, my colleague saw a ball of light, a small ball of light come out of the air vent and shoot up around the room and go through the door.
Wow.
I'm trying to think. We had heard several things like up on the second floor. It was like a townhouse type place, and we were up on the second floor, and you could like hear someone moving around in the room, but nobody be in there. And I had this Gaussmaster device that they used to have. It was like the very first electrical ghost hunting equipment. You know, it was this little gray box that you had to depress the button, and it would, you know, the needle would register, you know, the milligauss and all those different things that we'd used. Well, I had one set up right at the very top of the stairs. And my reason for doing that was I kind of wanted to see if something was either coming up or coming down, if it would actually, you know, set the device off. And all of a sudden, I'm like looking at it one time, and I literally saw it just shoot down the stairs. It didn't fall. It like was flung. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So went down the stairs. That happened. We had a couple of other things, but my main interest in that house was that truck. And I said, I asked the homeowner, I said, look, I said, I know, you know, you're still having issues and stuff. I was like, I would really appreciate it if you would let me borrow this truck so I could kind of study it. There's some things I'd like to do. And, you know, I'm just, may I please borrow it? She goes, oh, no, you can have it. He's like, he won't even touch it now.
Right.
So I was like, oh, great. You know, I just got a possessed truck. Yay. You know, so I took the truck and I put it in the back of my car. And I kind of forgot about it, to be honest with you. You know, there was a couple things I did with it. I put a recorder down, and you know, I try to talk, see if any, you know, can you move the truck? Can you do this? You know, maybe take pictures, and didn't really capture anything conclusive. So I was like, so I'd keep putting the truck back in the car.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one day I was leaving work, and I decided I needed to go to Walmart to cash my check because I just got paid.
Okay.
So I went into the store and I cashed my check, and I was coming out and I was just getting ready to leave the parking lot, and all of a sudden the back seat flipped down and that truck drove all the way up, went between the seats, and landed in the passenger floorboard while it's going off, while it's going grave digger, and I almost ran into home because I saw it come through, and I saw it pass between the seats, and it landed on the floor. And I stopped. I slammed on the brakes, and it's still going off on the floor. So I like stopped, and I called my colleague, and I go, "Oh my God, this truck! It just like busted through my car." Told him what happened. He goes, "Well, just put it back. You know, don't worry about it." And I'm like, "What do you mean, don't worry about it? I got to go to work." And, you know, I was just envisioning this truck driving, you know, through the lobby and going up the elevator and all of this other stuff. So I'm like, I picked the truck up and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna put it back in the trunk. And I opened up the trunk and I was like, you know, I'm looking for everything, because when this first started, I talked to the homeowner. I was like, you know, don't be alarmed. This could be a defect in the car. This could be something completely, you know, non-spiritually related. It could just be bad wiring. I mean, I'm telling her all of this stuff.
Right.
And I'm holding this thing in my hand, kind of thinking the same thing until I open up the battery compartment and find there's no battery.
Oh, God.
Oh, my God.
And that was
Wow.
the thing, when she had first told me about it, I told her, I'm like, look, if your kid is scared of the truck, just take the batteries out of it. She said, I did. It still goes off. And I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. And so when she gave me the truck, I didn't even check to see, if there was like batteries and stuff,
Right.
which could have explained why I didn't have a lot of, success with, trying to work with it or whatever.
Yeah.
But it wasn't a factor. And now I'm sitting here looking at this thing, and this is the most eerie part of it all. Okay, I think it is. That truck literally vanished. I do not know where.
I was about to ask.
So it drove away.
It is gone. It is gone.
Wow.
That's
I mean,
great.
it was in my truck or in my trunk one day, and the next day I was in there putting something in there, and the person was with me. Don't put that evil truck next to my stuff. And I'm like, don't worry, it's not going to possess your groceries or whatever. And it made me think, where is it? And I'm looking around, and it's just totally gone.
It's gone.
So either someone broke into my trunk, or actually into my car,
And
got
took-
in my trunk,
and took the
and
toy.
took a random monster truck that they had no idea what it was,
Right.
or, I don't know. I
Wow,
honestly
it's
cannot answer that.
That's crazy, Dr.
Yeah.
Corelli.
So that's the kind of thing. I don't have a whole lot of experience with different objects. I did have a possessed clock once, which Kathy Nance has right now in her living room, that I had gotten from a house, and I took that back because that was a little too much for me. But
Well, what did it do? Now you got my curiosity. What did the haunted clock do?
well, so I had this residence that we had been investigating. Okay, it was in South Oklahoma City. Okay, and they were really good people. We ended up kind of becoming friends with them and stuff, and we would investigate there, about once a month or whatever, or they'd call us and say, hey, this happened, come check this out. And the one thing that really kind of got us in there was they were reporting like malevolent activity. There
Okay.
was the dad was held up by the throat and
God.
the choke, and there was a few other things that we had, and we actually ended up making like a documentary type movie about one of the investigations there, and you hear this eerie whistling while we're walking down the hall, and nobody was whistling. It was only captured on the camera. Light came on by itself. All this type of activity that had happened there, and so it was maybe one or two investigations into investigating the house. They brought up the clock, and we're like, okay, what's with this clock? And it was just a very small, antique clock that they had. They had basically said when they had moved into the house, everything was cleared out of the house except that clock was sitting right in the middle of the attic. Just the clock.
Wow.
Nothing else. And so they go, wow, I wonder why someone would want to get rid of this very nice clock, and it had a defect in it where the strike, would misfire, and it would kind of make like a little clicking noise, instead of it chiming or whatever. So, but that really didn't set off any alarms, So anyway, they were attributing a lot of the stuff, to the clock, because they said, everything will be fine, and we'll wind this clock and stuff will happen. And so I'm thinking, oh, really? Okay. So again, I very humbly asked the homeowner, can I borrow this and take this home? And yeah, sure, yeah, just take it, take it with you. So we load the clock in the back. My colleague at the time had a Chevy Blazer, and it put it in the very back. And we're driving along, getting ready to head back to the city, and all of a sudden we saw this very long, like, animal running toward the road, and it was black. It was very long. It looked very similar to maybe a panther or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And when it got even, it actually hit the side of the car at the Blazer.
Whoa.
And I know this because I was leaning up against the door it slammed into. And we both kind of stopped and looked back, and the thing shook its head off and ran off across the street.
Oh.
Yeah, could have been, maybe it was an animal, whatever. We go on.
God.
I take the clock, I put it on my dresser in my bedroom. And so I'm thinking, okay, let's just, I just want to monitor it. I didn't do a lot of experimentation. I didn't set out, different devices and check for energies and all that stuff. And the main reason being is because I didn't have it that long. Okay. The very first night that I had it, I went into my bathroom, the master bathroom, and I had the door closed, and I started hearing like someone was walking around the room. I started hearing like shuffling type noise. So I opened up the door. No, nobody's there. A different time, a little later, I was in the bathroom, and I hear this sound like a tink, kind of like very weird sound, like something hitting something glass.
Mm-hmm.
And I go out, and the clock had a glass door, in front of it that latched, and it had come unlatched, and that door swung over and hit one of my bottles. It was a cologne bottle that was on my dresser by itself. I'm thinking, okay, that's weird. The next day, I'd come home from lunch, and I was at my computer desk in my bedroom. The clock was there, and the clock had made like some kind of noise. I wouldn't say it was the misfire. It was something else, like a tick or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I had looked at the clock, and I had made a explicit gesture to the clock, and all of a sudden, the door to my bedroom started shaking. The knob started shaking. My door was locked, and it was like the knob was shaking, like somebody was trying to get in. And I knew I was alone.
Right.
So, to be safe, I get up out of the chair, I get my gun, and I start going through the house, okay? My door is double locked. It's got a lock on the knob, and it's got a sliding lock at the top of the door.
Okay.
So I go out, fully armed, go room to room. All the doors are locked. All the windows are locked. Everything is fine. There's nobody there. So...
Golly.
All because you flipped off the clock.
Okay. So,
that's one question.
So, not that.
Go ahead.
What's that?
No, I just like.
Okay.
What I don't understand is like, okay, and Kathy and I talked about this a little bit. Attachments to certain items. Why would they do that? I mean, if you have a chance to cross over to the light or go into a table, and you go into the table, I don't get that. So, what do you think it is?
Well, it's not always spiritual. I think a lot of these objects are tied in with energy. Okay,
mm-hmm.
I don't think it's always spiritual, like a possession type of thing. Okay, I think there can be a spiritual attachment where something can be attached to a certain object or location or person, but not necessarily possessed in the sense. Okay. I also believe that certain objects can kind of radiate or draw in spiritual activity, kind of as a beacon. Okay.
Gotcha.
So it's a tool. Yeah.
Now, whether that's some component of what that item is made out of, or whether it's some significance of a kind of an energy as it's giving off. Okay. Like I know in the paranormal field, we use what's called EM pumps, where it actually generates electromagnetic energy to try and attract spirits to communicate with or interact with or whatever. It could be that type of thing without it being an actual, I want to say electrical, type of a device. It could be a whole lot of other things, but most of the time, I would say if it's a spiritual attachment, we're talking human here, okay, nothing demonic, nothing. Anything like that. it would have to do with either some significance of the person or significance of the loved one of that person.
Gotcha.
So, say for an example, if you have a spirit of a father who's looking for their daughter, it may be the daughter's toy or something like that it was very close to.
Do you think
that was looking? A lot of the time, I found that transient spirits, that we pick up, like, oh my God, don't even get me started about bringing them home. But transient spirits like cemeteries and places like that, abandoned places where you can actually pick them up, they can be attracted to these types of things, which I think could lead to why they actually follow people and then eventually go away. It could be I don't want to say a person's nature or personality or, aura or something like that. But, there's people that go out there and say, hey, if there's any spirits here, you're welcome to come home with me. I have a big house and a pool.
Oh, God.
And then they wonder why, they're having their doors slam and their TVs turn on.
Exactly. They have no idea what they're doing.
Do you think that a spirit could attach to Do you think that a spirit could attach to something like a clock? And I'll give it like in a scenario. You're on the south side of Oklahoma City, and this family is having these experiences, right? And so they call you guys in.
Sure.
And maybe the family is just, okay, they found this creepy clock in their attic. And so the first thing that they respond to is, hey, it has to be this clock. Maybe it wasn't even, there was no attachment to the clock initially, but because the family chose that item in their house to identify with the spirit, that a spirit could then say, hey, that thing's getting some attention. Maybe I should, infiltrate that and be more relevant. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it could have been. Now, if we were dealing, like I said, with like a poltergeist case, like they had 2 kids there, but they were way older than a young agent would be. But let's assume for 1 minute that it was. That could potentially be one of the ways that it could create an attachment. However, it could also be that there was actually a spirit free roaming the house, and I'm going to take this clock. Well, I'm just going to go with him and go from there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be like I said before. There's something sentimental about the clock that caused it to hang around with the clock. Now, if the clock was destroyed, would that attachment end? Would it create some sort of a negative reaction? Don't know. Maybe. Could it be something, completely unrelated? You have to keep in mind, spirits, I don't believe spirits are really on real time, okay?
Right.
They can be dormant for 20, 50 years waiting for something. We don't know what conscious time, how they exist, basically, on what plane of is it? I don't think they count minutes and seconds and years and whatever.
Right.
I think they can identify it. I've never seen a ghost of the watch. I don't know if that has anything to do with it or not. But
and that could be why they hang. It's like when you hear about the spirits who may have been hanging around for 50 years, but to them it could have seemed like an hour because there's no sense of time on the other side.
And we've gotten responses. Okay, you read the book St. James Hotel, right?
Yes.
We got that response. It was like 1875.
Right.
And my friend said, how could they? This hotel was founded in 1880. How could they have died here in 1875? Well, 1872 to 1880, this was a saloon. That's when most people died.
Yeah.
That's when the outlaws were here and people got killed and shot on the bar and all this crazy stuff. So yeah, they know their time. They know their birthday. They know, all of these. I really believe. Now, it's possible that when they move and change into, spiritual, that they could lose some of that memory, But I believe, like I said before, their makeup, their genetic makeup, their spiritual energy makeup is like DNA. That doesn't change.
Right.
It just changes form.
Yeah.
So,
That's incredible.
That is incredible.
But let me finish with the clock. I've got one last thing.
Yeah, sure.
I was going to ask about that clock.
The day after, I could probably get you a picture of it. I'll look around and see.
Yeah, I'll put it on the website.
The day after, let me think. The day after the whole doorknob shaking, thing where nobody was there. Not that night. The night after, I had come home and I got home pretty late. I think I was on investigation or something, and I came home and I said, I'm going to wind this clock. I'm going to really see what this clock is going to do, because I hadn't wound it up until that point. I had not messed with it mechanically in any way other than I closed the door I closed the glass door when it flung open.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, nothing else was really done. So I was like, okay. It was at 1:30. Okay. I wound the clock. Like, I'm gonna go to bed. Exactly 1 hour later, I woke up. There were spiders all over the room.
Oh my God!
And I flew out of bed and I started like dusting myself off and in a frantic, like, turn on the light and look, and that clock started making a sound I'd never heard before. It was almost like, and I don't want to use this dramatically, like a mechanical laugh. It started going kirk, 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 kirk. And the next day, I got rid of it.
So that was going to be my question. Is like, what was the straw that broke the camel's back? I think the spiders crawling over you would do it.
Yeah.
So is Kathy having any problems with it?
I don't know. I haven't. She hasn't told me about it. I don't know if I don't know what she's had it for a while.
You can have it, but don't wind it up.
When I got rid of it, the homeowners were having a Halloween party, and they wanted to kind of use it as I don't know, like a scary item, or I don't know. I just took it back. I was like, I don't want this anymore. I'm done with this. You can have it. Thank you, but whatever. So that was the clock. But going into the transient spirits and following you home, we used to go out a lot, and I mean a lot. All the time, investigating through the week, on the weekends, and we went to a lot of abandoned places. We went to a lot of cemeteries, and a lot of those places are where you pick up the transient energies and spirits, because that's kind of like crossroads for them, I think. They go back and forth unless they're within the house, and someone comes in, and like I said, they go, "Ooh, hey, I live alone. Come visit me," and and then they go. But I never went to a site and said, "Hey, I'm kind of bored tonight. If anyone wants to come home," and I never opened it up to that. It's just one of the things that happens. Right. It's always a possibility. It's like when you're driving down the road and you see deer crossing. You may not see a deer, but eventually, at some point, someone might. That happens. It's just a possibility. So, one of the places where I got a lot of spirits come home with me was the Arapahoe Cemetery, and that was in the book. Mm-hmm. So one night, I had come home, and I got out of an investigation, and it was late. And long story short, I went to bed, and I woke up. Everything was normal. My doors were totally locked. Everything was fine. I started getting around for the day, and I was getting ready to leave. And I, got dressed and everything, and my keys were missing. And I'm thinking, where are my keys? And so I'm looking around the bed. I'm looking under the bed. I'm looking in the room. I'm looking in the kitchen. All these places where the keys could be. The keys are gone. And so I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, this is just crazy. I don't know where my keys are. So I knew I had a spare key in the glove box, but I didn't know if I left my door unlocked, was able to go in and get them. And I went outside, and my car was locked, and the alarm was set, and my keys are sitting on the driver's seat. And I had to, very embarrassed, I had to call AAA. And they had to come and unlock my car. And
did they ask you, how in the world did you manage this?
Keys in your car? Yeah. I sarcastically told him, no, a ghost did it. And, but the night before that, what?
I was going to say, Kathy wanted me to ask you. She said, ask Logan about the dog with wings at the cemetery.
Oh, that was Arapahoe too. I'll tell you that story in just a second.
Okay.
So I don't think it was a dog. It looked like a bird to me, some kind of like human eagle thing. Anyway, I'll tell you in a minute. So anyway, the night before the key thing happened, when I got back, I was in the garage, and I had gotten into the kitchen, and my alarm went off. And I said, well, that was weird. Maybe my pocket, I hit the button and whatever. So I went out, shut it off, reset it, came back in. Well, I got to right to the entrance of the hallway, and it went off again. And I thought, that's really kind of weird. That twice. I said, maybe somebody's like in the garage, like messing with my car. So I go out there and I look, everything's locked, blah, blah. Everything's fine, closed, everything. Okay. I go back in, I get to my bedroom door. I have the keys in my hand, so I know my pocket didn't set it off, and it goes off again. So I said, okay. So I went outside. I went into the garage, and I just made a very, very calm announcement, and I said, look, I'm not coming out here again. I said, if you set this off, you can drain the battery. I don't care. I am not coming back out here to reset this. And I set it again, and it never went off again. Went into the room. The next day, my keys are in the car with the alarm set.
They got you.
Yeah. Yeah. So, things like that, it's more of a mischievous type thing. There wasn't really a lot of malicious stuff. Probably the worst thing I saw in the house was this girl. I saw this like image of this girl, and it was the most disturbing thing I think I've ever seen as far as an apparition goes. And it was very, I only saw her 3 times. I can tell you every time that I saw her. And the look was horrible. She had these, it was almost like you were looking at almost like a sketch of a girl, and it had kind of a tannish looking color to her, and her eyes and her mouth were like scratched out like a black thing, and it was just really disturbing. But never attacked, never anything that would make me want to do this big cleansing or quit going out or anything like that. It was nothing even similar to that in the house. But I have scared a lot of people. And there's a lot of people that won't come back to my house because they, from when it, they say your house is haunted. And I say, well, periodically it is, but not lately, that type of thing. And they don't want to really take a chance. Mm-hmm. But the bird thing, the thing that Kathy's talking about was that same cemetery that I told you, Arapahoe, that we were leaving one time. And there was like, I don't know, maybe 4 of us, I think, in the car. And we were actually going out, and we got to the road, and we got to one of the intersections of the road, and there was a street light right there at the road. That was the only light that there was, okay, in that intersection. So we're going by, and as we are, what I saw, okay, this was my visualization of what that I witnessed. I saw something come up from the ground, okay. It was white, and it started spinning clockwise in a circle, and the dirt was going up as it was spinning. And as it was spinning around, it's like arms stretched out like wings, and it flew straight up into the air, like fast. All this happened within 3 seconds, maybe 5, 3 to 5 seconds. And I looked up, and you could see, like, in the ground, where all this dirt was spun around, and this thing was like straight up, but it was gone. It was gone that fast.
How big was it?
So I don't know what it was. I would say from when it stood up, in my perspective, it was about 7 foot tall.
Good God, that's
huge. It was, and the wingspan on this thing was insane. It was very big, and it had shot out. And see, Arapahoe is a Native American area. You know, I don't know if the cemetery is per se, but I was told by somebody that could have been one of the spirit guardians of that area.
Okay.
That could have been, you know, now that you were gone, maybe it left. Maybe it was just watching over it while you were there, type of thing. I don't know. It did look very bird-like to me. It was very low to the ground when I first saw it. It was, you know, it's almost like it got lighter as it transformed. It got almost very bright. I would say it wasn't illuminating light, but the color of it intensified, the whiteness, I guess. It's very hard to explain, but when I saw it, I looked at Kathy and I go, "Did you see that?" And she goes, "Yes, I did." And we started kind of explaining the same thing to each other. So I knew she had seen it. I don't know about the other two that were in the car, but it was very baffling because I had never seen anything like that before. However, I did have an encounter with a dog out there, and I'm sure you read about it. It was the very first time I went out there. It was back in 2003. And we were looking for the grave of Robina Smith because she was the one that had a part in Haunting of the Cemetery as the story goes.
Right.
So, you know, we had went out there, and I had my son. He was like 6 months old.
Oh my God.
I went out there with my ex and a friend, and our car wouldn't start. And because we got out to look for the grave, and we got the car, and the car wouldn't start.
Great.
And I mean, it just was dead, and the wind was howling real intensely, and it was getting colder. And I'm like, oh my God. And I did call AAA, and I'm like, look, we're in the middle of nowhere, in the cemetery, and we can't start a car. Can you please come out here? And they were kind of like, well, it's going to be about 2.5 hours.
Oh God.
Because it's literally, you know, it's probably almost 2 hours from here, from where I am here. So we were like waiting, and my friend had the hood up trying to figure out why the car wouldn't start. And all of a sudden the car just started rolling forward uphill.
Oh God.
Okay? Oh my God.
And we're hitting the brake, you know, trying to get it to stop. And, you know, he puts the gear, you know, puts it neutral, puts it back in park, and does that a couple times, and all of a sudden it started back up again. We're like, oh, thank God.
Oh wow.
Got the car and started our way out of there. And we got to that road that leads to the highway, which is where we saw the bird thing. And we get on the road, and this dog just out of nowhere starts running after us. You know, the stupid dog. I'm like, you never heard or saw a dog, you know, never. And this dog is like on like drugs or something. It was like,
Oh my gosh.
and, you know, like, oh, hey, dog. Oh, you think you're going to keep up with me? And he was like driving down this road, and I'm like, dude, you better be careful, because like once it gets to the state highway, it's a left or right turn. You can't go straight, and
Gotcha.
or you go off the road, you know.
Yeah, so you better not be going too fast.
I told him, I was like, you better slow down. And he goes, how is this dog keeping up with me? That dog was on his driver's side at 60 miles an hour.
Oh
That
my
dog
God.
was still there barking.
God.
And he stopped, and it disappeared.
Wow.
No barking,
Whoa.
no dog, no nothing.
Whoa.
The next time I went, which was about a year later, we were walking the cemetery, me and a few colleagues. First, I was telling them about it and the story and blah, blah, blah. Well, here's the thing. We may still have that audio somewhere. I'll have to look. But you hear a dog barking on that audio. Nobody heard a dog.
Oh,
Nobody.
Oh,
I didn't
wow.
hear a dog. They didn't hear a dog. But you hear a dog constantly barking in the audio. So was that something spiritual? Maybe. Maybe not.
Probably.
Maybe, you know,
Probably. Sounds
it
like
was
it.
maybe it was somehow related to this guardian spirit. Maybe it, you know, transforms, you know, into different, you know, objects or animals. I don't know. I can just tell you what happened. And seeing the bird and you know, everything else, it was just It was very unique.
You need to take us
had
out
a lot
there.
of stuff happen. I can anytime.
Okay.
Anytime I know where it is, no fail. One time we were in investigation, and this is no joke. You can ask Kathy about this. We were actually out there at this house, which was about 30 minutes from there or so, and we were coming back up to I-40, and, Arapahoe's by Clinton.
Right.
So we're like, hey, we're at Clinton. Let's go to Arapahoe. And we went out there, and I am not kidding you. That fog was so dense, you couldn't see anything. And we got up, the cemetery's like on a hill, okay, which is how I said we were pushed up instead of down, because you have to go like up this hill. And when we got there and parked and got out, we were literally watching shadows come up from the headstone and take off running in the fog.
She mentioned
that was fascinating. I had never seen that. I mean, we split up, and I'm like, hey, it's go find them, go see what's going on. We got a EVP. We got a EVP of a woman. I don't know if it was Rabina or who it was. She never identified herself, but my former colleague was kind of a loudmouth. He was always talking. He's the one in Taco Bueno that was like, oh, okay. Well, he told him to shut up and wait in the car because he was talking so much. And then he was saying something one time. She told him to stop. Same voice, okay. So it's probably one of the most active cemeteries I think that I've been to. One of the most active. And if you see my book, if you see the layout of it, the first half of the book is like these national, super famous haunted places like Waverly.
Right, and then the other half is Oklahoma stuff.
And the second half is all Oklahoma.
Yeah.
It's like all the little places, the church, the towns, the places. And by the way, I want to say this on record, okay? 21 years, the most haunted place I've ever been, the most active place I've ever been in the country, and I guarantee you I've been a lot of places, was that hospital in Guthrie. That was the most mind-blowing thing I've ever seen in my life. I have pictures of the woman in there that chased me off that floor, and I didn't even see these until after the event happened to me. I'm sure you read about it. But that place, like, totally 100% convinced me that all of this was legit.
Right.
I mean, you always have this part in your mind that's like, maybe this isn't real, maybe this is this, maybe, there's everything can be explained away type of a thing, but not anymore. Not after the stuff I saw in there.
Wow.
Never. And I can send you those pictures.
Please do.
And you look at them. I guarantee you, it would make any skeptic scratch their head, because it was completely real. And I've had just tons of fun doing this. If I didn't have fun, I probably wouldn't do it as much.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd probably still be doing it, but we have a really good time, going out, and, we always travel, we go eat, and, we go do all of these other things. So it's not just like completely business type of a thing. But, the last place we went was, I told you, Tennessee, the hospital there. And we were talking about the ovulus, right?
Right.
So I'll go ahead and tell you that part. Now, there are some clips of some that I tried to film on my Facebook page. And by the way, if you ever want to follow any of my investigations, go on my Facebook page. The videos are still on there. I've got videos from, I think the Sally House are still on there. No Pemming Sanitarium is still on there. There's quite a few that I did. Bob Mackey's may or may not still be on there. I don't know.
Did you
but
get
anytime I go out,
Did you get any from the Axe Murder Home in Iowa? That was very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Did I get any what?
Did you have
video?
Did you get any video or pictures from that case?
I did get a picture. Got a picture of a child's face in a window. The same window to the room where the Sillinger girls were murdered. And it looks just like one of them to me.
Right, right. Yeah,
I did. I have that,
it's in the book.
I have that picture too, I think. I can.
And you actually, you had an experience where where you said you awakened, but you didn't remember it, right? And you started walking towards the door in a sleep-like trance. And
Yes.
Yeah.
That happened twice, actually.
Now,
that happened on two separate.
Now, before
it was almost like some sort of subconscious interaction, maybe. I wasn't dreaming. I wasn't really expecting it to happen. The first time it happened was when my ex-wife was there, and she saw the whole thing because her and her friend didn't sleep any because they were like terrified,
right.
you know, really being in. But I did. I had fallen asleep, and apparently, from what she had said, was I don't know if I was like saying something or whatever, but she saw me sit up, and she asked me, you know, hey, are you okay? And I didn't respond, and I had gotten up off the mattress, and I stood there for a while, and she was like, something wrong, you know, are you okay, whatever. And she said I started walking toward the kitchen, and she kept calling out to me, you know, hey, what's going on, you okay? Well, her friend, I guess, had heard her, and they were worried that I was going to go out to the barn and get the axe.
Get the axe, yeah, I remember.
from the murder. So they were thinking, oh, my death, he's going to kill us, you know, all this type of stuff. But what she ended up doing was, before I had actually made it to the door, she had, like, I think she had grabbed my left arm or something, and I kind of, like, you know, came out of it or whatever. And I really didn't say anything about it then. And she had took me back to bed, and you know, I went to bed, and the next day she goes, what were you doing? You know, where were you going? And I'm like, I don't know. I don't remember, you know.
So Dr. Corelli, did you ever sleepwalk when you were a kid or anything, or was this absolutely a new thing that happened?
Well, I did when I was really young. You know, I used to go into different rooms, and sometimes like I would, like, you know, sometimes I like go into the bathroom and maybe like fall asleep on the rug or something like that. But that was when I was like really, really young, not in a really long time. And see, that was kind of another thing that I had really did a lot of study on, was dreams, dream interpretation, that kind of stuff. You know, REM sleep and all of that type of thing. I wrote a dissertation about it when I got my doctorate. And I really believe that during the course of, you know, transitioning from either awake to sleep, sleep to awake, you're more susceptible to spiritual activity and contact and things like that.
Sure.
So that's one of the times where they can actually reach out to you. Now, when you're in a solid state of sleep, does that have some sort of an effect on how, you know, they can reach you? Or can someone once asked me if they could like induce dreaming, where maybe you could dream like their memories or have them in the dream trying to contact you or something like that, like
right.
a deceased relative or whatever. And, you know, I mean, anything is really possible. However, most of the time that have been documented, I guess I should say, have been when people wake up to seeing apparitions. They at least call them crisis apparitions. You know, if people were in danger, or if there was something that people, you know, there was a spirit needed to convey or something like that. Most of the time it was during that period. But like for me, I didn't really have a connection with the house. You know, we had all the stuff happen, you know, that night. We'd gotten EVP out of there. The ball was rolling. We had heard noises, the devices that went off in the one room. A lot of it was really aimed in that cylinder room where they died. And then the second night, the night that Kathy was there with me, I had the same type of an instance where apparently I had gotten up in the middle of the night or early in the morning, and one of the investigators there, he was really sick, and he really didn't sleep much at all. And I guess he had heard me downstairs, and he was asking me, you know, he was like, did you come up to the second floor? And I'm like, no, not that I know of. And he goes, well, somebody came up the stairs, and I was like, I don't remember, doing that or whatever. But he came down there and kind of woke me up and asked me what I was doing. So, could it be they were trying to tell me something or show me something? Possibly. Is it possible that had I not been stopped, I would have been kind of led to more, information or details? I don't know. Like I said, there was no point where I can remember, having contact with anybody or anything like that. It was just more of, and nowhere else did that happen. Okay. Right. Nowhere else did that really go on like that. And I've had a lot of like crazy things happen going to bed. Like, are you aware of the Lemp Mansion
in what?
St. Louis?
I'm sorry?
The Lemp Mansion?
No, I guess I'm not.
In St. Louis?
No.
Okay. Well, I was, and that was another chapter in my book, by the way, they omitted. And I can't believe it because it was just fascinating the stuff that had happened there. But I had something happen when I was going to bed, and my ex was there, and I was really mad or whatever. But I actually saw a guy come into the room, the door open, a locked door that came open. Guy walked in, put a gun to his head, and pulled the trigger.
Oh my goodness!
Holy crap!
Now, my ears were ringing from the gunshot.
Wow.
My wife was still asleep. Nobody else heard anything. The door is still wide open. Nobody's there, and I didn't know, really what to do. I just kind of like stayed in bed. I didn't even get up, close the door for probably 30 minutes. And eventually I got up and locked the door and all of that stuff. But there was a lot of the history of that house, and you can look it up. Was a lot of the male members of the Lemp family. They were the ones that they had a brewery there, and they had all this financial success and whatever. But they had a lot of tragedy. A lot of the men killed themselves. So of the family, the father, I think, was William Lemp Sr., and then the junior, and then the son Charles, I think, died, and I don't remember. The daughter might have died too. But there was a lot of tragedy there. Okay, so was this something potentially trying to get me to, commit suicide? I will tell you this. Okay, that night we investigated it. The night that happened, there was probably 8 people that was there that investigated. There were 6 women and 2 men. It was me and a brother Anthony. And I had asked him, because we went to Villisca that next day, and I asked him, I said, I didn't lead in anything. I didn't tell him about my experience. I said, did you have anything happen to you after you, he didn't stay the night in the building, by the way, he left. And I said, did you have anything happen to you after you left the investigation that night? He said, well, I didn't want to say anything, but I did. He said, I was having headaches, and I started having these very bad nightmares about, like death and stuff. And he's like, it really like disturbed me and everything. And that's when I told him what happened to me. And I know, when I started to go to bed, I was really angry and stuff, and maybe that kind of triggered something. I don't know.
Right.
But I truly believe that house has an effect on the men that go in it. Maybe not all of them. Maybe the ones that feel susceptible, maybe the ones that it feels like it can manipulate into something. I don't know, but that's the last time I've been in that house. And I've been in that house before, and I didn't have that happen.
Wow.
So take it as you will. Like I said, I've got a ton of the things that I could tell you about, But anyway, I want to tell you this Ovilus story because it was the last, it's fresh on my mind, and it was the last thing that I did before I came home.
Okay.
To an ice storm that took my power for a week. And so I told him, I said I should have stayed in Tennessee. But anyway, that's all history now. Anyway, so we go to the hospital, right? And we're investigating, and we're in the room. If you go watch the videos, you can probably see part of it. But we go into this we call it Nana's room. It was this elderly woman that died in the room, and we started. We did have some activations in there. I'm sure you saw that on the video.
Yeah.
several activations and heard some things out in the stairwell and stuff like that. So that was on the 3rd floor. We went to the 1st floor. Okay. There was a guy that lived there named Jim. He was I guess he was a resident that, just lived in the building, and, he had, passed away, and, people have encountered his spirit there. And so my friend and I we were in there, doing the sit down, investigating. We had equipment everywhere and everything. And, he said, is anyone in here with us? Can you, let us know, identify yourself, whatever. And the obvious said, Jim.
Whoa.
Oh,
He
wow.
goes, oh, Jim's here. Okay. Hey, Jim. And, he said, anyone else here with us? And it said Murphy. And so we kind of stopped and we were talking amongst each other, and we're like, does that mean Jim Murphy or Jim and Murphy? Is this one person or two? And
Right.
we started kind of talking amongst ourselves, and, we're asking more questions and stuff. And, we said, my friend started asking us really random questions. Like, he said something about, the last thing he asked, he said, do you like apple pie? I really like apple pie. It's delicious, and ice cream and blah, blah, blah. He went on about this apple pie. So we ended up leaving Jim's room. We ended up going down the hall to this other room that Jim supposedly had, been seen or heard or whatever. So we're in the room, and my friend goes, hey, well, we're in here. He goes, do you remember us? Do you recognize us? Something to that effect. And the ovulus said apple.
Oh,
and he goes,
wow.
that's right. I was talking about apple pie.
Mm-hmm.
And, he starts talking. All of a sudden, it was like the environment shifted very fast. And it started being very sexual and very suggestive. And it started saying all of these words. And we were kind of laughing because we thought it was funny.
Mm-hmm.
Because it was saying mommy, deep, and erect, and it was saying all these suggestive words. And we were just laughing, go, oh yeah, you like that? And, going back and forth. And so we get done with the room, and we go out, and we met up with the team that is the caretakers there, because there was a few of them on site and stuff. And they go, hey, did you get anything? And we said, well, we did, we got Jim's name in Jim's room, and we also, got the name Murphy. Was his name? No, he said, what's Jim's last name? And she was like, I don't remember. It's like Anderson or something. Some name. And we said, well, we got two names. We got Jim and Jim's room, then we got Murphy. We thought his last name would be Murphy. And as soon as we said that, there was a girl that was there. She started talking to her mom real quiet and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we were telling the girl some other stuff, and my friend was like, hey, what are you not telling us? And she goes, well, I was here last week, and this is a teenage girl,
Right.
and she said we were here last week, and we made contact with this girl through the ghost box that said this guy named Murphy had raped her.
Oh,
And that she told me to run and hide from him because he was after me and stuff. He would come get me or whatever. I don't remember what she said exactly. So we were kind of wow, So we go back up, and we go back to Nana's room and stuff, and we were talking, and we had asked, is Murphy here? Is he around? And I don't know if you're familiar with all the equipment. We have a periscope, okay,
Mm-hmm.
and it basically measures static, electricity, and it had gone off, in the doorway and stuff, and so he started talking about that girl, and he's like, the girl we're talking about, and the ovulus said 15, and we asked her how old she was. 15.
Oh my!
I mean, exactly.
Wow, that's crazy.
So it was things like that really kind of made me say, okay, I know what the ovulus is. I know what it was designed for. But all the years I've been using it, I have never seen it be so quick and so relevant and so decisive
Wow.
Yeah.
of what the situation was. Another thing that happened in there, we went down to the kitchen, which was like down on the bottom floor, right? And we were all sitting in there, and we had the equipment out. We did a session where we were trying to make contact, and nothing was going on. So we just started kind of talking amongst ourselves. And my friend was like, you know, I remember when I was a kid, I saw this movie and it like really scared me. And I'm like, what was it? And he goes, I don't remember the name of it. He was like, I remember they like redid it a few years back. And he was going on and talking about it. And the Ovilus said 7. He goes, no, it wasn't 7. It was some other movie. It's older than that. And he was talking the house. He goes, this guy was in this house and he moved this like fireplace, and he, you know, went in there to look, and it said glance. He goes, yeah, he was glancing around and looking for things, and these monkey creatures started coming out, and it said demons. And he goes, yeah, they were demons. And he went on talking about it. And that's exactly what it was doing. It was doing this like guessing game with him.
Wow.
You know, this like conversation. And I mean, it was spot on. There was no words that came between or anything that was off subject other than the story he was telling.
Wow.
And that's rare.
Like it was guessing. It was guessing with him.
Right.
Yes, it's very rare. And I can tell you, we have had some situations. Okay, we've had some situations where the Ovilus was spot on with things. Okay, one time it said worm. We looked down at our feet. There was a centipede crawling by our foot. That could have been a worm. Okay, maybe.
Right.
Another time, we were running a ghost box in someone's house in the bedroom that was haunted. You know, the house was active, and I'd never seen this before. The Ovilus came out and said AU. It said AU. I'm like, okay, what does that mean? And we kind of had a little discussion amongst ourselves, and he goes, well, I don't know if that's relevant, but, you know, AU on the periodic table is gold. And as soon as he did that, a man's voice came to the ghost box and said gold, plain as day.
Whoa.
Wow.
Different man. And then it said buried, and it said underneath or something like that. And I go, oh God, please don't tell this homeowner there's gold buried under their house. They will dig the whole property, find it, and then we'll be liable. I said, do not share that information. But it just gives you an example of how, you know, a lot of these times we get things like that, but not in the sequence where it's so close together and so relevant. You know, I mean, and like I said before, I totally believe in coincidence, but I think that went a little beyond, just in my opinion.
Wow. So let me ask you this, Dr. Corelli. And my house, which, you know, gosh, I'm embarrassed to even say, do you remember anything about that investigation? Although I know it shut down a bunch of equipment.
Yes, and I think I believe that's the one where it ruined Kathy's camera.
Yeah, it did.
And she had to throw it out because it like broke it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was very interesting. But you know, I honestly, like I said, I remember. I'd have to look at the case log, but I do remember bits and pieces of it.
Uh-huh.
So, but definitely the camera, because that was a thorough discussion when that happened.
Yeah, she said when she got home it was like it had been soaking in sugar water or something very sticky. She says it's very odd.
It was. And I remember too, if I'm remembering correct, like before it broke, they were getting these black like images or something like in the frame, in the pictures,
right?
And then right after that, when it kind of died.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. She said there was a bunch of. I remember her telling me at that time that there was a bunch of pictures that she had taken and she wasn't able to retrieve them. And so I think she had a few. I think she got 2 of the orbs in my kitchen above the K2 meter, but that was about it. But yeah, I'm kind of embarrassed to even bring that up, Garrett, because his other stories are so much better.
So fascinating.
It is. Well,
Dr. Corelli's going to have to be on
quite
a bit.
Yeah, Dr. Corelli, can we have you on again? Because I want to go over your book. And
sure.
Yeah, I'd love to do that.
Well, what?
I'm sorry?
I have some Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. what I would really like to do is I have some like big investigations scheduled
Okay.
the next coming months. I'd like to come on and maybe have it to where we can interact with maybe some people and ask questions or something.
Absolutely.
And I can kind of go over everything that happened. Now, hopefully, because right now I haven't gone over the audio from the hospital, have some EVP or some evidence, something that we can kind of present to everyone. Perfect. And maybe if it's okay, have another investigator with me, and
that'd be great.
Definitely,
we can all talk together.
No, that sounds interesting. That sounds like a great idea. Let's definitely do that.
Because one of the things we're hoping to accomplish here is, just a general education of kind of, the field you're in and the investigations and everything like that. Because there's a lot of people who listen that, haven't had experiences and are curious about it, and, curious about how you investigate it and deconstruct it and reverse engineer these ideas and try to get to the source. So it's hugely important.
I agree. I think the more educated people are, the better this field will evolve. I think the better people will take us seriously, the more professional it would appear to people, other than all dramatics and screaming and that's really one of the reasons why I kind of strayed away from a lot of the mainstream TV stuff, because
right.
It really, when I was watching these shows, okay, I didn't watch for the fun of the people. I watched for the places they went. I thought they were interesting.
Right.
I wanted to see if there was any legitimacy to it being haunted. There was a lot of things. The equipment, another thing, kind of kept me up to date on what's new and the investigation technology.
Right.
And but over the years, like I said, it's kind of been going the wrong direction, in my opinion.
Right.
And that's why with my show, I want to do it right. I want to show it really what it is, even if it's just the most boring hour of your life.
And I think that's important.
I want to show that it's legitimate, it is real, and nothing is falsified. Everything is by the book, and it's going to be a really great show. We've already shot 6 episodes.
Awesome.
We're going to be shooting more, and I'm really excited to work with it. I've worked with production companies before and Discovery and all of them, but I think this is going to be new, refreshing, and something that people are really going to enjoy watching versus, a lot of the other stuff.
Right. Hey, you want to hear something weird, Dr. Corelli?
What's that?
My shoe's untied on my left foot.
Really is.
Yeah, I'm serious. It's untied.
Well, if you start hearing that noise,
I'm calling you. I'm calling you. Yeah, but
I'm gonna see if I can find that audio file, because we used to have that audio file of that noise, and I'm gonna see if I can find it. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, send it over.
Yeah, I love.
If you hear it, you'll know what's going on.
Yeah, I'll be calling you if it happens, and somebody's coming over here and getting rid of it. I don't like living with ghosts. It's just, I don't know. I'm too chicken for all that stuff anymore. But well, Dr. Corelli, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. This has been awesome. Great stories.
No, thank you. I had a good time. And like I said, there's many, many more, I assure you.
Yeah, we definitely got to have you back on several times. And like I said, I think that's a great idea about your investigations, having you and another paranormal investigator coming on and discussing that with us. And maybe we can share some audio or video or something like that with the viewers.
Sure. I think it would be great.
All right. Well, everybody, this is Dr. Logan Corelli, and I encourage you to get his book on Amazon. It's called The Haunted Heart of America. And it's a fantastic read, and like I said, I encourage everybody to go out there and buy that book. It's very interesting. Well, you have a good evening, man, and thank you so much, Dr. Corelli, for being on. And
sure, anytime.
Yeah, and after tomorrow, well, maybe we can get together on Facebook or something and start discussing maybe having you and investigators on, pick some times.
Yeah, like I said, we do have a couple scheduled. I know for December. I'm not sure about this month, but 100% next month.
Yeah.
And like I said, I'll keep you in the loop on that.
Awesome.
And we'll see what we can figure out.
That sounds great.
Have a good night.
Well, thank you so much. And
Okay.
Dr. Corelli, have a great night. And again, thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate it.
I appreciate your time. Y'all have a good one.
You too. Good night. Man, that was awesome. That was some very, just scary stuff.
Scary. I like the science behind it.
Yeah, that's what makes it really interesting
Yeah.
too, I think, is that he has that knowledge of science and he can debunk that stuff. So if he knows there's a logical explanation, he has the knowledge to say, hey guys, this is why that happened, or no, this is definitely a paranormal. So I think it's super important
He's
to have
also,
someone like Dr. Corelli
Right.
on an investigation team.
Yeah, well, and he's admitting that, about 60% of the time, quite a bit, he's just sitting there,
Right.
which is interesting.
Yeah.
It makes it all that more important whenever that door opens and that guy walks in. It's not supposed to be there. You're like,
Yeah, how about that story though about the dog running along with the car
Man.
and that guy's going fast and then all of a sudden the dog disappears?
my thing is the TV with the red screen and the laughing.
Yes. Well, can you imagine being 8 years old?
Nope.
I mean, I would have been shaking in my tennis shoes, man.
Yeah.
That would have been.
I would have made my family leave.
Oh yeah.
I think I would have been freaking out so bad they would have been like, we have to get out of here.
And I do feel so bad for his mom because, like I said earlier in the interview, is like, you're the protector of your children, but
Right.
yet when you can't explain
Yeah.
to your child, okay, well, this is why that happened,
Yeah.
not to be scared, but she can't explain it either, so there's no security there
It's
for
okay.
anybody.
It's okay, honey. The TV's unplugged.
Yeah. Gosh. But, don't you think, though, that some people, and I know we've talked about this before, they attract, there's just some people that attract paranormal
Right.
experiences.
Well, one of the things I was kind of curious about is the common thread between all the stories he was kind of telling us about his own personal experiences, like when he was by himself. It was always this kind of mischievous entity. Like even the shadow chasing him to the room, right? And
Right.
the TV turning on and laughing, the breath on the window, all the way up to the shoe being untied, the computer's turning off, and he always kind of he even mentioned it. It was like kind of playing with him, locking his
Right.
keys in the car. Like, so one of the questions I'm going to ask him in the future is, does he believe that could that possibly be a spirit attachment that's followed him from that moment on?
That's a good question. I don't know.
I'm going to ask him next time.
Well, I think if you have a lot of the same type of activity like I did,
Right.
in my past, where it was a lot of the same stuff going on for years and years, and that would be the thing, is ask him, was that the type of stuff that was constantly going on in your life at that time?
And I'd rather have that, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I'd rather my shoes become untied than, the other stuff
some
he was talking
evil
about.
demon hanging over your bed or something. Or,
Good night, Dressel.
or when he said he heard or he saw the guy shoot himself.
Yeah, no.
And then not only that, but heard his ears were ringing from the sound of the gunshot. But his wife was asleep. That's terrifying. See, things like that, I couldn't do it.
Yeah. Well, I immediately would wake up Cass.
Oh,
And
yeah.
immediately, just go back to sleep. But when you've been in that situation over and over and over and over, he's trained.
Yeah, he's
You know
trained
what I
and
mean?
he's been around it his whole
Right.
life. He's used to it. So, some of the things that aren't real significant to him, he's probably like, go back to sleep. I'll deal with it tomorrow.
He goes, I'll shut the door.
Where
in
the
about 30
normal
minutes.
person's like, holy heck, what the hell was that? And it scares them. But yeah,
That was an awesome show, though.
that
Well done.
was so
Well
good.
done.
Well done, Dr. Corelli. Well done.
Yep.
But all right, Garrett. Well, I think we better wrap it up. We're on 2 hours and about 20 minutes.
That was perfect.
So, man, everybody, thanks for joining in and listening to this.
And Single 7, if you're out there, contact us.
Single 7, Time Traveler. If you're out there from the Art Bell Show of 1998, please contact Garrett and I.
205-730-6441.
That's right. We'll have an exclusive line just set up for you. But anyway, all right, we want to thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Corelli, and good night. And we
Good
will
night.
see you guys next week. And let's get Dr. Corelli and a couple of investigators with him and talk about it, man.
Boom.
All right. Good night, everybody.